Was Endtime funded by USAID? And what's going on with all the tariffs? And how do they impact you on a personal level? And why did USAID send the World Economic Forum $68 million? All of this and more today on the Endtime Show. Welcome to the Endtime Show. Vince Stegall here with Doug Norvell. We're so happy you've joined us today. Don't forget to share this video right now. Give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, and make sure you're engaging in the chat. It goes a long way with breaking through the algorithms and getting to your friends and family, so do that right now. You know, last summer, Dr. Peter McCullough warned about the bird flu, linking the virus's rapid spread to gain-of-function research, which now is a common practice at many labs globally. Of course, we're reminded during this time how terrible flu season is. And Dr. McCullough joined Doug and I a few weeks ago, urging early prevention, recommending contagion emergency kit from the wellness company. His medical board approved solution with 5 critical life-saving medications like ivermectin, Tamiflu, a nebulizer, and hydroxychloroquine. Just complete the digital intake form and your kit will arrive in 1 to 2 weeks. So go to twc.health/endtime, and when you use code endtime, you're going to get 10% off. It's twc.health/endtime. Use code endtime today. Before we get into the government-controlled media and all the crazy stories coming out with USAID, tariffs are a big talking point in the first several weeks of the Trump presidency. So we had to bring our friend Philip Patrick from Birch Gold back to the Endtime Show to shed some light on what in the world is going on. Philip, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Yes, sir. President Trump, he's delivered on one of those key campaign promises with the tariffs. So what's going on with that? What's live right now, and what's driving these decisions?
Yeah, great question. So the U.S. imposed a 10% tariff across the board on Chinese imports. He froze the 25% tariff on both Mexico and Canada, basically because they both decided to play ball when it came to border security. Mexico agreed to send 10,000 soldiers to the southern border to prevent the trafficking of fentanyl and other drugs, and Trudeau promised to implement a $1.3 billion border security plan. So essentially, there are 2 major intentions behind the tariffs, right? First, there are national security concerns, right? Fentanyl overdoses kill 250 Americans every day. It is a huge problem, and the vast majority of this drug is coming from Mexico, and the precursor chemicals are coming from China. With China, the tariffs were more about reducing our reliance on Chinese manufacturing, and specifically for critical defense-related components. Secondly, and this we've come to know of Trump, there's some strategic leverage at work here as well. By actually imposing some of the threatened tariffs and pausing others, he's showing us how he's using tariffs essentially as a tool, a negotiating tool, to get results. And so far, it appears to be working.
So it's probably impossible for me to look at things through President Trump's perspective, a very unique man, of course. But you might be able to help us out with that. What are some of the short-term economic consequences of the tariffs that he's put in place?
Look, the Trump administration are signaling, right? They're saying things are going to be painful before they get better. Both Trump, Elon Musk, it's a consistent theme throughout the administration, and they're right. So what we're seeing shorter term was to be expected with tariffs. There's volatility, right? One of the big problems with tariffs is they are retaliatory, right? Since World War II, the global economy has become very intertwined. So when we slap tariffs on China, for example, they just hit us back with tariffs, which they've done. They just announced retaliatory tariffs on a very specific set of products, 15% on coal and liquefied natural gas, 10% tariff on crude oil and agricultural machinery. On the back of this, we're seeing market volatility, right? Financial markets don't like uncertainty. We're seeing supply chain disruptions. And of course, the consumers now are starting to feel the effect of tariffs in terms of higher prices. So there will be short-term costs, but it's all because of long-term gain.
Are there any benefits, any positives about the tariffs? What's President Trump trying to accomplish with it?
Yeah, it's a great question, and the answer is absolutely yes. Look, we have quite simply a revenue problem, right? We are spending much more money than we bring in, and the way to fix that longer term is to boost our manufacturing base, and that's what tariffs are very good. They incentivize domestic manufacturing. Trump put some tariffs on China back in 2016. They led to a huge increase in factory construction here in the US, over 252%. The other thing it does is more about national security. It reduces our dependence on foreign supply chains. Think about it. When the Ukraine war kicked off, we couldn't send more Javelin anti-tank missiles because we couldn't get the chips because of supply chain disruption. So boosting domestic manufacturing will fix supply chain issues longer term. So Trump's plan is to rebuild the economy longer term. Shorter term, there's going to be some volatility associated with that.
Well, you've been telling us for over a year how we need to get in on gold, and this week they set a new record high. Can you explain why so many investors see gold as an important asset right now?
Yeah, look, it's the problems we're talking about. Economic volatility, of course, fuels growth in gold, and we've seen gold hitting all-time highs even since the Trump administration, all the way through the Biden administration. The problems haven't disappeared, right? And actually, we've got some hard times before we can get through and sort of see the light at the end of the tunnel, if you may will. Being a safe haven asset, it historically has always held its value through times of turbulence. It is, of course, a very good hedge against inflation, which is still very sticky for the Federal Reserve. So we've got some tough things to iron out. President Trump, I think, is getting us on a better trajectory, but we can't forget the scale of the problems that he's inherited. Listen, last year, debt service in the United States, just debt service payments were 50% more than US defense spending. You could look back in history, no empire has ever really come back from that position. Now, I think with President Trump, we've got the best chance we have, but this is a very tough problem when it comes to debt, deficits, and everything else. And precious metals are the best way to protect in climates like this.
Well, and you all just released a new information kit, if you will, on Trump, gold in the Trump era. And that's still available at birchgold.com/endtime, I believe. Is that correct?
It is birchgold.com/endtime. So how and why to invest in gold under a Trump administration. And it gives a very detailed, very technical case as to why. So I think everyone should read that, get educated, and what they do from there, of course, is on them.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us, Phyllis, and helping us understand that a bit more. We appreciate it so much.
Guys, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right. God bless you. You need to go to birchgold.com/endtime right now. Get that gold in the Trump era kit. It's totally free. birchgold.com/endtime. Get that today. All right, Doug, there's a lot going on around the world. There's a lot going on in the discovery of USAID. Mm-hmm. Does Endtime get funding there?
I think Endtime would be on the opposite end of the spectrum from there, because I think they would want us deplatformed, which is what we're finding out what some of this was about, Vince, which is what, I mean, it's crazy when you look at all the elements of it, because it's almost like world government itself. It's got its tentacles into everything. And there's some interesting kickback coming back from it too. We got some interesting video we want to show some folks later.
Well, I see like Christian media being funded substantially. I see how $268 million went to fund over 6,000 approved journalists, not just journalists, approved. They had to be approved. No, Endtime was not on that list. Now, when I start seeing $268 million, I think about what all the Lord, he can do anything anyway, but I think about what all we could be able to do with some funding like that. Even a small fraction of that amount, Doug. We have not received any of that funding. We are not on the approved journalist list, I can assure you.
No, we are not.
Of course, we aren't journalists, though we do talk about news and different things. Our objective is to expand God's kingdom, and that may be part of that problem anyway. So no, we're not on the list. We're not getting funded from USAID.
Well, you know, I mean, even though we're not journalists, we are in this new era of journalism. I mean, you know, we're not mainstream journalists by any stretch, but we do keep people in the loop of what's going on prophetically in the news. And we saw so many of the podcasters and people that are now called journalists. Remember what Elon Musk said, is that we are journalism now. Of course, I better watch dropping Elon's name right now, because he's not the most popular guy in the world because of all of this. But, there's been, how many different people have been demonetized, including us, and have been kicked off of their channels because they were putting the truth out there. And, this first article we got from the Gateway Pundit, they were talking about how they were not included in this because they talked about the truth. And so when you see that, you realize that there was an agenda being pushed forward. The agenda has now been exposed, and the people that are behind the agenda know that they've been exposed. And that's what the article talked about. A lot of people who's they were receiving it, and it might have not been straight to them, but it was laundered around, and it gets back to them, which is, it's crazy. People need to go read these articles for themselves, because there's a lot of information in there. And I mean, we're scratching the surface on it today.
And Doug, there's still people saying that all this is a conspiracy theory.
I know.
That this isn't really what it seems, and this is crazy ultra-right folks making all this stuff up.
Yeah.
And how dare Elon Musk dig into this, and his 18-year-old engineers that are digging into the data and finding out all this information. And even, Doug, this is not, I mean, they're finding out Democrats and Republicans are benefiting
absolutely
quite handsomely, as some would say, from these arrangements that have been made. This isn't just a Democrat thing or just a Republican thing. People on both sides are receiving a lot of money.
It's actually a deep state thing. I mean, we hear about the deep state all the time. People think that's a conspiracy theory. But it actually is a deep state situation, and these people are in the deep state. They're on both sides of the ball. So, yeah.
It's insane. Now, what do we need to know from the story from the Gateway Pundit, where they're highlighting this $268 million that was funding 6,000 approved journalists?
So this report that came out, this covers 30 different countries, Vince, and it's not just the U.S. This is a global initiative here. This is something that's been going on globally, and of course, this report wants us to feel sorry for them, because these approved media outlets in 30 different countries, including the U.S., will no longer be receiving your taxpayer dollars to publish their globalist propaganda. Now, folks, when you see some of the things that this talks about, including the COVID-19 and the response to that, and the vaccines, and the information that came out, I mean, you can see that this is a global effort to try to quiet things down. But this USAID, which, what'd you call it? USAID is what we're calling it?
Yeah.
All right. Funded primarily supported the left-leaning journalists and media outlets that aligned with government-approved narratives on COVID-19, elections, climate change, and DEI policies. Now think about all those things, because Trump has already begun to talk about dismantling these things already, but this is what it was helping to fund. Additionally, they claim that USAID indirectly financed organizations involved in censorship efforts against conservative and populist media, such as the Gateway Pundit, which is where this article comes from. These organizations, including NewsGuard, the Center for Countering Digital Hate, and Trusted News Initiative, allegedly worked with tech companies to demonize and blacklist conservative platforms under the guise of combating misinformation. Now, some of the people that were involved in this, because it talks about the big tech. Now, we know, what's come out now from Zuckerberg and some of the other people that were saying, they were kind of forced into doing some of the things they were doing. But I want everybody to hear who some of the foundations are that sponsor this, okay? So an internet sleuth called Bad Kitty Unleashed released an explosive report this week on the Center for Countering Digital Hate, partnered with the U.S. PAC's taxpayer-funded, restless development organization to counter, blacklist, censor, and silence COVID disinformation in 2021 and beyond. And some of those donors are, get this, the Obama Foundation, the USAID, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Clinton Health Initiative, and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and the United Nations, Vince. The world government itself have all funded this and paid money into this institution to funnel it in different places where they needed it to go, to shut down media that was putting out truth about things, and to only give money to those foundations that were preaching and saying what they wanted them to say. So ultimately, this report portrays this USAID funding freeze as harmful to the press freedom, the freedom of press. And the critics contend that the agency was actively involved in silencing dissents while promoting government-aligned narratives. So this is a little bit of the story. We've got an even bigger story coming up here in a few minutes, but I want to let you talk to them about what you sent me this morning and who the other big funder was here.
Well, and yeah, and I
actually received funding, I guess.
Yeah, and on top of that, Doug, as I'm hearing all this and we're learning more information, the big picture in our mind, of course, we explain current events through a lens of Bible prophecy. So when we highlight these stories, I know that folks out there can look at this and go, why in the world are they talking? What's this have to do with end time prophecy?
Right.
Well, there's a big web being formed right now, and this is all part of it, Doug. And here's where we're going to tie it in, or at least some of it. Some of this funding with USAID, by the way, you asked about how we say it. Of course, I asked you that first, and I had to Google it, actually, because I know we can say USAID, but apparently there's older folks, according to the internet, that say
people
USAID.
My age.
USAID, which I'm not going to say.
USAID.
How do you say it out there? Put it in the comment. No, USAID. Come to find out, it appears they're also they sent $68 million to the World Economic Forum, Doug. $68 million. This is
very interesting.
I think about this and I go, we don't have a money problem, Lord. Now, End Time is not a massive organization. Like, when you think of large Christian ministries, we are not that.
Right.
We are nowhere near $68 million. We are nowhere near that. And
No,
so when
we're
I
not.
think about what in the world, and again, I say it again, what we could do for the Lord, all these doors, we could actually get only source working. The stream's not working again today, Doug.
Oh, no.
Maybe we could get that working, but there could be a whole lot that we could do for the kingdom of God. And I'm going, Lord, open these floodgates. We're ready, Lord. Could just try us, Lord. But yeah, $68 million to the World Economic Forum is what it appears to be.
And remember what the World Economic Forum wants. They want you to have nothing and be happy.
Right.
So you'll own nothing and be happy. That's their philosophy. That is Klaus Schwab's dying wish for you, folks. I say dying. He's probably not dying because I think they're going to freeze his brain in some chamber or something and put it in a robot one day. But that's what they want. They want you to have nothing, to own nothing, to be happy. They want you to be able to be tracked. They want, what did Yuval Noah Harari say? We want people to just be on drugs and play video games because we'll just be insignificant during the transhumanized world once we start using AI and all these different things. So they have plans for you with their Great Reset, and our money has been paying for these trips to Davos and for everything those folks do. Now remember, they don't want you to be able to travel. They don't want you to have anything but an electric car that goes 100 miles and then you got to charge it up for 6 hours again. But they fly their jets into Davos every year, and we fund that. We're funding it with our taxpayer dollars because of USAID.
What do we do about this, Doug? This is
Well, I think that they're shutting it
I guess we're
down.
doing
That's
it,
what it
right?
sounds like. It sounds like, I know that a lot of people right now are upset with Elon Musk.
well, he wasn't elected, and yet
Right.
he's meddling in all this data, getting access to servers and different things. And so there's people that aren't too happy about that, Doug. And I mean, I can kind of understand where they're coming from, but it seems like it's less about the privacy for them, because we know they don't care for privacy. Like they just want to access everyone's data. But when someone starts accessing their data, it's like, this is good for you, but it's not good for me type thing. So that's where the struggle appears to be coming from, that all this stuff is getting highlighted, and what they've been saying about the other people, the other side, has actually been true about them. So, man, it's a mess, Doug, and we need to pray. We need to pray, like, seriously, for the people that are, like, we want what the Lord wants to do. So, yeah, some of this is going to come to light. We need protection over people that are actually doing the right things. And there's going to be more, Doug. There's going to be a lot more that get uncovered. I mean, we're just a few weeks in here, and we don't know what's next. But, boy, you need to pray. And while we're on this topic, how many of y'all out there are still banking with those banks that align so closely with the world government system? Well, you need to stop and think about our friends at America's Christian Credit Union. Go to endtime.com/ACCU. They have a partnership with Every Life, and they sponsor diapers to new moms who are choosing life. For every new Endtimer, open a new checking account with them. Plus, when you enter promo code Endtime, when you sign up, they'll pay you a $100 bonus to your new account. So you can go to endtime.com/ACCU and enter promo code Endtime when you apply. You need to get out of that big banking system as fast as you can. I realize banks are necessary for a lot of people. So if you need a bank, we're going to recommend America's Christian Credit Union. All right, Doug, what is next? Because there's so much to talk about. I don't know where to go from here.
Well, so this is just one part of what's been uncovered, and this comes from LifeSite News. So this article was huge. This was a giant article, and I really had to condense it. But I tried to put as much in there with as much information as I could, because it's very important that we understand how deep this goes and what they've uncovered. Because like you said, there's going to be more stuff, Vince, that's going to be uncovered as we move on. We're only into the third week of Trump's office, or fourth week now, I guess. And so this is what this article tells us. It says that Donald Trump's administration has begun dismantling what it describes as a globalist network. Now let that sink in, because this is why we're talking about it. Vince asked the question a while ago, why are we talking about something like this? We're a Bible prophecy program. Well, this is why, because this is a globalist network. And it says by shutting down the USAID, which it alleges was funding various controversial projects, including, get this, regime changes efforts all around the world, okay? If you remember, Vince, we've talked about this before. One of the reasons why we believe that Putin in Russia is in this conflict with the Ukraine is because in 2014 there was a regime change there. The people had been voted in. They voted who they wanted in there. And then during the Obama administration in 2014, there was a coup there and government changed. And according to what Vladimir Putin said, there were Nazis put in place there. There were people who were not good people that were put in place by the Obama administration. And that was one of the reasons why he says that all of this began. And so I don't know if that's true or not, but I know that a regime change did happen. I know a coup happened in 2014. You can go look all that up. It happened under the Obama administration. And that's one of the things that the USAID pays for. So we know that that kind of stuff goes on. I mean, look at what just happened in Syria and the information that's coming out about Obama and his plan to change regimes in Syria. And now under the Biden administration, that has happened. So could this be part of it? Well, now Trump says he's also going to check into the Afghanistan situation and the Iraq situation because of its ties to this as well. So we're going to find out more about this, but it goes on to say that it's digital governments or governance programs, mass migration, and ideology initiatives. So they've got digital governance programs that we know what all that's about being able to survey us digitally They want to change our money to digital so that they can control all of our money. This mass migration, we've seen that firsthand along with Europe and other places within the world. It's all connected to each other, and this is all a global effort to change the face of the world. It says too that these projects include funding the origins of COVID-19. So what we were talking about earlier with Dr. McCullough being on here talking about gain of function research, this has paid for gain of function research. Also fake social media sites to promote the overthrow of governments, heroin production, and fake HIV clinics to promote regime change, as well as funding the persecution of Americans and U.S. election interference.
Well, Doug, I know this stuff is going to cause people to question what in the world's happening with America, where we're at today. And Dave actually is teaching a brand new lesson called America's Prophesied Future. He'll be teaching that this weekend in Justin, Texas. You want to go to endtime.com/events to learn more about that conference. Dave and Jana will be in Justin Saturday night, Sunday morning. All the details are at endtime.com/events. You'll be one of the first to hear this brand new lesson, America's Prophesied Future. And then, of course, he'll be talking about breaking prophecy news the next day. All the details are there. You don't have to RSVP. You don't have to buy a ticket. It's free to attend, but the seats are first come, first serve. So you want to get there early if you're in the Justin, Texas area. Make plans to come out this weekend. Doug, what about Elon Musk? I want to circle back to him real quick because we've got some people in the chat saying, well, you guys need to look into him more because he could be the Antichrist.
I'm surprised that they're not saying that about Trump today, but...
Well, they may be, and they're saying that we haven't talked about it. Of course, I'm sharing the link that we did. Is Elon Musk the Antichrist?
Okay, Elon Musk is not the Antichrist. I know that people would like to believe that, but first of all, he's not from Europe, and he's not a political figure in
But
Europe.
he could get citizenship easily there, Doug.
Could he? I thought he was Canadian.
Well, but, you know, he's the richest man in the world.
He's South African, Sam says.
Yeah, he is.
So anyway, he is not a candidate. Maybe some of the technology that he can do, we'll have to see where that goes. But at this point, we'll talk about it more on another show. Break.
All right, we'll be right back.
A reminder of the breaking news this hour. At least 22 people are reported to have died in a strike in Gaza.
The rise of Islam.
I'm trying to bring answers for so many families desperately.
Is the Israel-Hamas-Iran conflict World War III? So let's talk about the four horsemen. What do these horses symbolize? These are the four spirits of the heavens which go forth from standing before the Lord of all the earth. In the end time, the true people of God will not be weak, anemic, and defeated. These prophesied events are revealing we are quickly approaching the time of the Great Tribulation right now.
Now streaming on OneSource and available to order at endtime.com/screen. Go to endtime.com/screen or call 800-ENDTIME.
What if you could understand Bible prophecy? Dave Robbins, the host of the Endtime Show's TV and radio programs, is holding a free prophecy conference near you. Gain peace and understanding about what the Bible says concerning end-time prophecy. Call 1-800-ENDTIME or go to endtime.com/events to see when Dave will be in a location near you.
Welcome back to the Endtime Show. Vince Seagal here with Doug Norvell. Don't forget, you can be a founding contributor to OnlySource. I know we're having live stream problems right now. It's actually back up and running, but we do need your help. When you're a founding contributor, all those donations up to $100,000 are going to be matched. So go to endtime.com/one. You can donate there. That gets matched up to $100,000. Help us out. If the Lord leads you to give, any amount will help go a long way in expanding God's kingdom. That's our objective here. That's why the Endtime Show is available for free, streaming all over social media. Of course, it's available for free on television through OnlySource and on radio around the United States, and of course in all the podcast apps. That's free because of partners like you that the Lord's laid it on their heart to give. So pray about giving and whether or not you should support us here at Endtime Ministries. So do that at endtime.com/give, or specifically for OnlySource, endtime.com/one. Doug, Endtime has not been funded by USAID. I'll just throw that out there again, let everyone know. No. If anyone was wondering, we didn't receive any funding that I'm aware of. I think I would know, but no money that I'm aware of. And
like I said, we would be at the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yes.
They don't want anybody exposing what they're doing.
We clearly are. So as far as USAID goes, there's a lot being uncovered, and people don't like that Elon's in there. And of course now people are going, Elon could be the Antichrist, and the break came up on us there, so you weren't able to properly address that.
Well, for one thing, he can't be, because he's here in the United States and he's not in Europe, and he's not a political leader. But right now, he's one of the most hated men on the planet by a lot of people, and the Antichrist will not be that guy. He'll be very well liked. And so anyway, those things are neither here nor there because of the things that he's doing. This is just promises made, promises kept, basically, from Trump, because he ran on the election saying, look, I'm going to dismantle the deep state, and we're going to put Elon Musk in charge of Doge, and Doge is going to go and he's going to see where all this government funding has been, and we're going to get rid of all that useless government funding. And that's exactly what they began to do. And so a lot of people are upset about this. Now, I do have a video that I want to show about some of the people that are upset about it, Vince. And you can kind of judge for yourself what they're upset about, especially when they say things like, get your hand out of my pocket. So it sounds like some of our politicians have been being funded by this. But this has been said, even the leader of El Salvador, he cited that this USAID, it funds primarily for political influence rather than humanitarian aid, and he has seen it himself, and he is all for what Trump has done here. The article also talks about how, and I didn't put this part in there, but how the church, even the Catholic Church, there's a bishop, I can't remember his name right now, here locally, that has spoken out against Pope Francis and against the Vatican and some of the things that they're getting behind right now. And he says that there is a dark church, or a deep church, he calls it, like the deep state. It's also, there is a dark side of the Catholic Church that are pushing for the same things, the open borders, the social revolution, and all these different things. And so this is, it's interesting because all the things we talk about from Bible prophecy, how there's going to be a one world government, that one world government is going to have a one world religious system and a one world economic system. And all those things, this is exposing all that, folks. This is exposing how they pay for things out there and how they're doing things behind the scenes in the dark shadows. And even this bishop spoke up in this article talking about how the church is part of this. And so it goes along with Bible prophecy.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
You're able to dismiss Musk pretty quickly with confidence. Mm-hmm. But what if someone said Emmanuel Macron?
Well, Emmanuel Macron is in France, he's in Europe, and he's done a lot of things that make you see he could be that guy. But I don't know that either. We don't know for sure, but he has said a lot of things and done a lot of things and is still doing things behind the scenes, working with, you know, the Palestinians and Hamas and all those things, trying to get a peace agreement done on his side of the fence too. So I don't know, we'll just have to keep our eye on that guy. But with confidence, I can pretty much say I don't believe Elon Musk is that guy. Now, I mean, I've said it before, Elon Musk has some quirky things about him. I think that he might have some things like medically, I don't know. Somebody told me that they think he may have a touch of autism. I don't know that, and that may be what makes him kind of eccentric. But I could care less. The guy is getting stuff done right now. He's exposing what's going on. And like I said, people are going to find out. And it doesn't just stop here, folks. The next thing that they're going to look into is the FBI. They're going to audit the U.S. Treasury and the agencies of the U.S. government. It says in this article that Musk's Department of Government Efficiency is set to undertake a thorough cleanup of the White House and all it commands. So a lot more is coming. There's going to be a lot more exposed, and we're going to see a lot of things shaken up. Already the CIA, I heard yesterday that CIA officials are giving people buyouts to where they can go ahead and step down if they're close and get out before all this happens. So they've got people running for cover. They got them scared right now because all the rats are coming out of the sewer. I'm getting a little worked up right now because I'm excited to see something finally happening after all these years.
We like Riled Up Doug.
Do we?
We do. If you like,
I don't know. There may be some people that don't.
Well, if you like Riled Up Doug like I do, put Musk in the comments. Doug, you said some politicians were upset.
Yeah.
Who were they? Who are they, rather?
Well, I'll let you see for yourself because we got a video compilation here of some of them, and this is just a few. And there's been some nasty things said, Vince. They're talking about going out in the street and causing violence, and it's really something. It's almost like they're calling for an insurrection. But let's watch the video. This is just some short clips.
Are you willing to fight day and night, dawn and dusk, to fight Elon Musk and take our government back?
Shut down the Senate! We are at war! We'll see you in the courts, in Congress, in the streets. Elon Musk is a Nazi netball baby. We are here to fight back. This is no longer business as usual.
We're going to tell Elon Musk, now listen to me, get your hands out my pockets. Say it with me. Get your hands out my pockets. 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 Get your foot off the Constitution. Take your foot off my neck.
Had to go there with the foot on the neck thing. Interesting because Vince, she said herself, "Get your hand out my pocket," which sounds to me like they're upset because now they're not going to be getting this kickback that they were getting before. I mean, she just pretty much admits Elon Musk has cut off our money, and they are fighting mad. And it's not just there was another video out there that I didn't send in today to get put on there, but Chuck Schumer is going to town too, and he makes no sense, the things that he's saying. It's like, I don't know if him and Nancy been hanging out or something, but he's making no sense. They have been hanging out.
I mean, definitely. And Doug, I'm just thinking about, these are like all this money going to all these different causes.
Yeah.
We talked about it earlier in the show. Was $268 million? Is that what it was going to? 6,000 journalists that were approved.
Yeah.
$68 million to the World Economic Forum. I mean, you can get online and look at all the different amounts of money that's being uncovered and the efforts that they're going towards. I've even seen, Doug, there's some churches being funded, and these churches there's some churches involved in some. Well, I don't know what all they're involved in exactly, but I know some of what they're involved in, so I won't comment, I suppose, but they're involved in some illegal activity, and they've been funded by the government to execute some illegal activity.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is kind of crazy, and I see the blending of a world government agenda with a world religion agenda, and it starts looking a whole lot like what the Bible says is coming just before the return of Jesus, how this world government system and this world religion system will be locked hand in hand just before Jesus comes back. And we're seeing it happen, and a lot of it, I know there's a lot more funding out there, but there's a lot of funding coming from U.S. taxpayers.
Well, you know, I mean, you talking about churches being funded by this too. Well, you look at the how everything's been pushed on us with the homosexuality and the transgender, all that through the church. We've seen so many churches that have identified with this movement and pushed it out there as if this is normal behavior. Well, there are churches that are receiving funding from this as well. And so that's one reason why there's been this push, this DEI, all this push for all this mess that we've seen over the past 4 years. And I think, like I said, I think this is just scratching the surface, Vince. I don't think we even fully understand all that this is going to entail and involve. But the thing about it, that one of the things that we're seeing is, like I said before, it goes globally. This is not a local United States situation. So one of the things I would ask folks to do right now is pray for our government, pray for our president, pray for Elon Musk in this situation with Doge as they do these things, because they're making a lot of people mad. I mean, there's a lot of people that are going to be upset about this. And the video that I just showed y'all, that's not even touching it. You guys go look for those videos yourself and watch it and hear what they're saying, because they're talking about taking to the street and causing chaos. And that's what they do. I mean, this is what we've seen over and over and over with the Antifa and with the Black Lives Matter. I mean, is it weird that every time we have one of these uprising, all of a sudden there's bricks on the street and stuff like that? Just happen to be pallets of bricks set out on the street and things like that. So there has been funding behind this, even during some of the riots that have happened because of George Floyd and some of those things. There were buses of people being bussed in specifically to riot, and who knows if this wasn't funding it, because it's in that agenda. It's overthrowing the government at the time and pushing an agenda. And that's why the media, remember when we saw CNN standing there and going, it's been mostly a peaceful protest here, and the city is in flames behind the reporter. And I mean, people dragged out, I can remember in Dallas, Texas, people dragged out into the street that owned businesses because they didn't want their business destroyed, and beat to death. There was a man that was beat to death on camera because he was trying to protect his store here. And this stuff has been fueling that. And so now we're finding that out. So anyway, there's no end to where this will go. The evil people that want to overthrow this world and push in their own one world agenda and control everybody, they'll stop at nothing.
Doug, more importantly than ever, we need to be praying, thy kingdom come, thy will be done.
Amen.
And we need to just really be emphasizing that prayer these days. We pray for that every single day here at Endtime Ministries. We pray for your needs. If you'd like to submit a need for our team to pray for as we gather every morning before the workday, go to endtime.com/contact, fill out the form there, select prayer request, and our team will mention you and your need, call it out by name. We'll be right back after this break.
The Roman government controlled the world. So many people were looking for a different Messiah, a rescuing Messiah. Remember the story of the woman at the well. The woman saith unto him, I know that Messiah cometh, which is called Christ. And Jesus said unto her, I that speak unto thee am he. Jesus very clearly stated that he was God and that he was the Messiah. We're even more blessed because we haven't seen those things, but yet we believe. When Jesus cried out, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? He knew every one of these prophecies had to be fulfilled. He said, it is finished.
Now streaming on OneSource and available to order at endtime.com/revealed. Go to endtime.com/revealed or call 800-ENDTIME.
Welcome back to the Endtime Show. Vince Stegall here with Doug Norvell. It's hard to believe, Doug, we've got one more segment left before the end of the show. These things are flying by more and more every single day. So it's wild, and I do want to remind you once again that Dave and Jana Robbins will be in Justin, Texas this weekend. You want to make plans to be there, go to endtime.com/events or give us a call at 800-ENDTIME. We'll be happy to help you out over the phone, 800-363-8463. Get you all the details for the conference this weekend in Justin, Texas. Dave will be teaching a brand new lesson Saturday evening. He'll be teaching another brand new lesson, actually Breaking Prophecy News, Sunday morning as well. So go to endtime.com/events. Doug, with one more segment left, with just a little bit of time, what do we cover now? We've covered so much information about USAID. We've made sure everyone understands Endtime's not getting any of that money. And what else do we need to know?
Well, the other thing that's happening is Trump is pulling us out of UN bodies. So the United Nations related bodies that we are attached to, or have been for so long, he's beginning to withdraw the U.S. from those things. And so just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention because, we'll touch here on prophecy in a second after I tell you some of these departments, but he's pulled us out of the United Nations Human Rights Council, defunding the terror-linked United Nations relief, which I don't know if everybody understands that, but some of the terrorists were hiding in UN buildings when Israel was trying to take them out, and some of the hostages that have been released has said that they were held in UN buildings. And so Trump is pulling us out of that. United Nations relief and work agencies ordered a review of the involvement in the United Nations Educational, Science, and Culture Organization, known as UNESCO, who has made claims that Israel has no right to Israel's holiest sites, like the Temple Mount and the where the patriarchs are buried, and all those things. It's crazy at what UNESCO's tried to say, that there was never a temple on the Temple Mount, all kinds of things. So anyway, this article also says that he is reviewing the U.S. ties to the United Nations in general. That's huge news there.
Does that mean they'll have to move out of New York?
It sounds like he's reviewing that and checking on it. Like he may just say, you know what, we don't want the UN in our country anymore. Who knows? But what we do know is, he talked about this situation too, about Gaza the other day, but I'll get into that in a second. But one of the funny things about this article is he left instructions that if Iran tries to kill him, that they will be obliterated. So I thought that was pretty funny too. I just kind of put that in there because the article mentioned that too. But here's how it ties into prophecy events. Is we know from Revelation 13:1 and 2, this world government does not contain the wings of the great eagle there. We see the 7 heads, the 10 horns, the body of the leopard, the mouth of the lion, the feet of the bear. But there's no eagle's wings like were mentioned in Daniel 7. And so we know that the reason why there's no eagle's wings is because we're not in that world government of the end time, but we're actually in Revelation chapter 12, verse 14, where it says that we're going to be helping Israel. And so he is actually helping to bring these things to pass with pulling us out of these UN governments. Now, people could ask, okay, well, what happens if Trump loses in 4 years and then they push us right back into that? Well, just with everything else, Vince, that's happening right now in the world, I just don't know that that's going to happen. It looks like we are on the verge of the Sixth Trumpet War. This peace treaty could happen. And now with Israel and Netanyahu coming into Washington the other day, and what Trump said about Israel and how we could just take over Gaza and we would own it and we would clean it up and we would make it the Mediterranean Riviera, the Middle East Riviera. He made all these claims, and so I had a question today, and I want to make sure everybody understands this because this person asked me a very good question. Vince, he said, could what Trump said about Gaza, could that be fulfilling that prophecy of the wings of the eagle? And so could it have something to do with that? It might, but does it fulfill that? It doesn't, and we know that because...
It does not.
It does not.
Okay.
And we know that because Scripture is very clear that where it talks about the wings of the eagle helping the woman and taking her to her place, it says that it's going to be in a very specific time, and that time is found in 12:14, Revelation 12:14, when it says a time and times and half a time. That timing is what Daniel chapter 7:25 tells us is the timing of the great tribulation, when the Antichrist makes war against the saints of God. And so we know that that can't be fulfilled right now because we are not in the great tribulation. The Antichrist hasn't been revealed yet. We're not there. So it's not that fulfillment. Now, could it be something that helps fulfill that? Well, maybe, but we already have a military base in Israel, you know, that we do flights and we do drills with them. We even do runs with them where, you know, we've bombed terrorist organizations from there. So the wings of the eagle are already very present in Israel, but this will not be fulfilled until a times and the dividing of time, which is the Great Tribulation. So that's the answer to that question. And then the last article I wanted us to touch on is about Gaza and what Hamas has said about that.
And that's from the Daily Wire.
Yeah, which
now,
came out today. I mean, I got this today while I was on lunch.
So it's not necessarily the fulfillment of if the U.S. is in the Gaza Strip,
right?
But it's leading us to these things that we see, and so I'll just reiterate: like, now is the time to really be praying, like, Lord, let your kingdom come. Like, at the same time, help me to be ready. Help us to be ready. Like, there's things happening that have never happened in our lifetime, that have never happened in the history of the world, Doug.
Right.
They're happening right now, and so we've got to get ready.
And so many things lining up, Vince. I mean, because with this, I mean, this is a huge deal. If Trump is serious about this, it's a big deal because, for one thing, if we did go in there, that would mean that there is a U.S. presence in the Middle East all the time. Well, I had that question yesterday. Somebody was asking because of Dave's program yesterday, and they asked me that, and I said, well, one thing you could say is that this could be what triggers the Sixth Trumpet War, is if we have a presence there in Gaza all the time, that could cause this to happen. Well, then this article came out today, and I was like, see, that's what I'm talking about. So the Hamas terrorist organization, and the article reminds us that they raped, they murdered, they kidnapped over 1,000 Israeli citizens on October 7th. They called Trump's proposal for the United States to take over Gaza a crime against humanity. You talk about the pot calling the kettle black.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, that is just crazy because they're saying that if America took that area over, and remember, folks, Trump has said, we feel sorry for the Palestinian people, the innocent Palestinian people that are just victims of circumstance because they're there. He's saying, we want to make their life better. So this terrorist goes on to say that what the president has said could cause not only conflict, but it could cause this peace that they have right now, the ceasefire and the giving up of hostages and all these things. It could cause that to stop. So that's what I'm talking about. This could actually push us into war if people were really thinking, okay, the U.S. is going to come here, Trump's going to move in, he's going to move the military in, and there's going to be U.S. military control over Gaza. That's where people are starting to get upset about this. And also, he's taken a lot of heat for what he said about Egypt taking Palestinians and Jordan taking Palestinian people that lived in the Gaza area. They were calling them Gazans. And Egypt responded by putting 100 tanks on their border, between the border of Egypt and Israel. And so it's interesting because you're seeing all these different dynamics play out. Like you said, things are happening right now that have never happened in our lifetime. And it feels like we are in a very turbulent time, but it also feels like we're in a time where we're beginning to see light at the end of the tunnel too, because this could also help that peace process. The U.S. having a legitimate role in the Middle East, that could cause some of these Arab countries to go, look, we've got to force this peace treaty. We've got to get the Palestinians to sit down at the table with Israel. And that's one of the things Dave said. He felt like maybe Trump is playing chess on that level that we hear he plays chess on, 3D or 4D or whatever level it is, chess that he plays. And this could be what that is. It could be that type of scenario. So that came out on the CBS Morning News yesterday. Breaking news by our National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz. He confirms that Trump's proposal to take over Gaza is meant to pressure neighboring Arab nations to come up with their own solution. It's going to bring the entire region to come to their own solutions, he said. So could that be what Trump's doing? But if you remember, remember when we looked at Peace for Prosperity and what that was initiating, that was saying that he wanted to give Gaza, he wanted to make that a Mediterranean Riviera. Mm-hmm. And he wanted it to be a tourist hub where the whole world could come there and be safe, and the Palestinian people in Gaza would reap the benefits of that. And they want to put a train line all the way into Saudi Arabia from there. I mean, where that would open up travel, and it would open up ways for people to normalize with Israel and make trade agreements, and everybody in that area could flourish, and it wouldn't just be Israel that's flourishing at that point, you know. So I don't know. I guess time will tell.
Well, in these turbulent times, if you are relying on anything else other than Jesus for your peace, for your hope, for your joy, it's not going to work out good. And that's one reason we say Jesus is my only source around here,
that's
because
right.
That is true. He is our only source, and we're not looking to anyone else, no political figure, no government funding, none of that stuff, Doug.
Right.
We look to the author and the finisher of our faith, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So if you're with us, put it in the comments. Jesus is my only source. We want to hear who all is lining up with that out there. Jesus is my only source. Doug, with just a little bit of time left, I've already seen in the chat, people are rioting in the chat that we need to go 2 hours. There's bricks that have been laid out in the chat.
They put a pallet of bricks in the chat room.
They want us to go 2 hours, and it's not going to happen today. But nonetheless, they would like that. But with such little time left, how do you wrap up a show like today?
Well, bottom line, Vince, Matthew 24 is one of the things that we always talk about when we talk about prophecy and what Jesus told us to look for. We're beginning to see these things happen more and more. Jesus said it would be the beginning of the birth pains, and we're watching that. But Jesus also said that those of us who can endure through this, patiently endure, that we will be saved. And then he says that this kingdom, the gospel, the kingdom, shall be preached in all the world, and then the end shall come. So the Lord tells us what our business needs to be about. Yeah, we can get excited about the things that are happening politically, the exposure that's happening where evil is being exposed. But the main thing, like you said, is keep our foundation, keep our feet planted firmly in Jesus Christ and the kingdom.
Amen. God bless y'all. Thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget, there's thousands of hours of content for free at endtime.com and watch.osn.tv. Of course, that's made available because of partners like you that give every month at endtime.com/give. So consider doing that. Go to endtime.com/give to partner with us today financially. You can also call 800-ENDTIME to give. We'll help you out over the phone for that as well. Most importantly, please remember to keep us, not just Dave, Doug, and I, but our whole team in your prayers. We're doing our best to expand God's kingdom, and we need your prayers more than ever before. God bless you.